us and the collaboration that we're going to have going forward.
No better way to communicate to your audience.
How do we grow strategically now that we've gotten the right path forward? What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Wanted to introduce Jim Sullivan and Tim Yandel and I hope I got your last name right. Perfect. All right. Doing the show with Todd Schroth on Agents Who Win. Wanted to bring everybody an opportunity because we're all trying to find out in this market how we find listings. And these guys have got 3 different opportunities they're going to bring us today to find listings in the real estate market. As this market changes, we've got to get strategic on what we're doing. And as they say, the niches are in the riches, and this is highly niche focused. So pay attention. Let's listen up what they've got to say, because I've worked with these guys before and we've created inventory from it. So I'm going to let you guys take on. Thank you guys again for being here.
All right. Well, thanks a bunch for having us. And you made a really good point there that, it's a changing marketplace, and finding a good niche. We refer to what we help people build as pillars, and we think that we can help people build each one into a pillar for their business. And we try to work in pillars that are evergreen and are less dependent on changes in the marketplace. That's kind of how we got started with this. I'm Tim Yandel. I'm the guy, that handsome fella on the right wearing a tie, and my partner Jim is the more casual looking dude there on the left. And Jim is the literally the co-founder of all the leads. I'm the CEO. Jim's been doing real estate for over 40 years, and I've been doing it since 2013. Today, All the Leads, which is the company that Jim got started, covers every county in the country, and we validate over 100,000 leads each month. Our subscribers have created more than 2.2 billion in estimated annual transaction revenue so far, and that continues to rise each and every year. So we're pretty happy with what we've accomplished. More importantly, we're happy about what we've helped our people accomplish. Here's what we're going to kind of cover in this brief slide presentation, and then we're going to talk with Todd for a bit about questions that may come up and questions he may have. So we're going to talk about why probate is such. I'm going to focus primarily on probate to begin with. We'll talk about divorce and pre-probate towards the end, and a couple of other things that we'll get to. But why is probate such a great opportunity? The driving forces are really strong, highly motivated sellers, typically far less competitive, and as I said to start with, it's pretty much economy proof. It's an evergreen program, and that's kind of the way it works. So we're going to talk about what probate is, when it is and isn't required, how it works, your local probate court, and how you could gather leads manually if you chose to go do that. And then we'll talk about our system, which is basically a complete done-for-you marketing system. So probate's such a great opportunity all the way around, because sadly, when a death in the family occurs, it is something that we kind of talk about. It lights a fuse. And very often, not in every case, but certainly very often, a death in the family creates stress, and families always want to get that over with pretty quickly. The real estate typically represents the largest aspect of a person's inheritance. And if in fact a real estate is owned by the family, they may need to get access to those funds sooner rather than later. So those are the things that are the motivating factors. And you can see the lovely picture that we put up there on the right, a lovely family dinner. But unfortunately, the challenge in probate is that all too often people approach the probate opportunity with a rather predatory approach, and we don't believe in that. We teach people to offer value first. We teach our folks how to build a team of people that can literally help people and earn the opportunity to work with those folks. So it's usually far less competitive because most people avoid it or tend to avoid it because of the perceived emotional aspects of it and the turmoil and the misconception that it takes forever to get a probate closed and all of that. That is becoming less and less likely, and the opportunities for finances are better primarily because in most cases, or in a lot of cases, there's lots of equity in a house in probate. So the value first I spoke a little bit about. We teach you some simple techniques to sort of understand the challenges that a family is facing and how to cope with them and help them along and literally provide value in the time of greatest need. Probate itself is a formal process, and it basically gives recognition. It reads the will, if there is a will, and as part of that, it appoints the executor, which is what it used to be referred to as. Now it is the personal representative, and that's the term that's typically used in every country or every state. Personal representative who administers that estate and distributes the assets. The one thing to keep in mind is that there's no personal representative academy that's out there. It's usually someone who's never done that job before. They're under a lot of pressure. They've got to go to court. They've got to deal with an attorney, and they've got to go deal with the judge and make sure that they do it right. And they've been trusted with the most important thing that's left in the life of the person for whom they are representing. So there's a lot of pressure on those people. Obviously, if there is no will, that's referred to as intestate, the court's going to appoint someone, and typically the court has several administrators that they can appoint, and those are people that do this for money, and they settle it in accordance with the laws of the state, and that's referred to as intestate succession. In all cases, remember that the objective is to get this process over with as quickly as possible and do it correctly. So that's the pressure that's sitting on that personal representative, and that's where the pain point is and where we try to teach people to go and help alleviate some of that problem. There are 3,143 counties in the United States and a bunch of other little jurisdictions along the way. And one of the things that we recommend is that you get to your local courthouse and understand how it works there, or at least network with local probate attorneys so that you can kind of understand if there are unique aspects in your local marketplace. Assuming there's a will, the decedent family reads it, the named executor files the probate with the local court, and if there isn't a will, the court's going to appoint the administrator, as I said before. The court may be involved, and an attorney in some states and in some jurisdictions may be required at every step. So it's important to build a relationship with not only one, but multiple attorneys who handle family law and do in fact deal with wills and inheritances and things like that. Some states require that the personal representative file a fidelity bond to protect the estate from abuse. Oftentimes the will waive that bond, particularly if it's a family member or they can choose to go do that. It happens. A death certificate, list of all the assets, list of all the liabilities, and a list of all the heirs have to be produced. And that basically is the entirety of what probate's all about, that one line right there. Have to notify that someone passed, and there's a legal notification of that. We have to know what the assets of the person who passed away was, and we have to know what liabilities, if any, are incumbent on those assets. And then if there's money left or property left or anything else to be disposed of, a list of the heirs to whom that might go. And some of those are and aren't covered by the will, and a lot of it depends on how the process laid out to begin with. All of the liabilities and admin costs and taxes have to be collected before the distribution to the heirs are done, and that's what the executor does. Basically, they get a checkbook, they write those checks. They pay for all of the pieces that are there. What they can and can't charge for the services they provide is typically provided either within the legal process or within the will, or if it's in the case of a family, they typically don't take anything for their work unless there's a lot involved. But remember that they're going to be doing this, and 9 times out of 10, they're doing it while they're also working their regular job. So this is kind of catch as catch can. A great opportunity for you to provide value to that person by helping them through some of the processes that they're going to have to go through. And that's kind of the point. The executor is going to have to be guided through how and when to distribute the assets. The court can help with that. The attorney can help with that. All of those things are there, but keep in mind that they didn't know how to do this the day that they got appointed for that position. Typically, it's not required in a lot of cases. Probate would not be required if the assets are in a trust. Taxes may still be applicable, and that might happen. Less than 5% of people have a revocable trust, and so that's kind of a small percentage of it. If the property is passing by the contract, such as life insurance and pensions, things like that. You've probably heard it referred to as joint tenancy with rights of survivorship. And that's kind of the way that works. And typically the spouse has to petition to get that, and that's also part of that probate process. And the other thing is when it's a very small estate. Most states will exempt those, but everybody defines it differently, and there's a different dollar threshold for each one depending on the state that you're in. So as I said earlier, there's a lot of counties floating around out there, and the court can be called a number of different things. Sometimes it's general jurisdiction or superior court, a court of limited jurisdiction, chancery courts, and oftentimes literally called probate court. You have to figure out how it applies in your county. You can visit your county's website and search for probate. That can kind of tell you what you're looking for. You can visit your courthouse, assuming it's open, and learn firsthand from whoever is the clerk that handles probate. Also, as I mentioned earlier, you need to network with probate attorneys, and we'll take some questions about that maybe after we get done. We can talk about good ways to make that happen. Gathering probate leads. You can do it yourself. You probably shouldn't, and we'll kind of explain to you why, but literally that means that if you're trying to develop a business around this, you have to go to the court. In some cases, you have to know who the person is that passed away, so it's a very tedious one-by-one process. You can ask to see the filing data, and like I said, they may ask you the name for each decedent, so you'll have to comb your legal notices and find out that John Smith passed away and Sally Jones passed away. And one by one, you'll have to do that. You can sift through the info, transcribe the data into some sort of a useful format, typically a spreadsheet, and that gives you something to begin with. Then you have to go and skip trace and find the personal representatives and the heirs, and that's part of the work that you'll need to do so that you know you're talking to the right people to get that job done. And then mail them some letters, follow up with phone calls, do the things that you need to go do to let them know what you can do to help them. Now, we do this as a system. So we gather these leads for you every month at your local courthouse. We include accurate information. We skip trace. We address verify for all the personal representatives and the attorneys when they're available. We deliver them monthly via our free probate specific CRM. So we've built a CRM as part of our system that is built in and specifically focused around working with probate. We also provide lots and lots of training. We explain to you how to deal with all the things that you need to know to make this work. We have over 500 hours of index training. And what we mean by that is that on our website, you can type in almost any topic and pull up all kinds of information where we've talked about that specific thing, whether it's what to say, when to say it, how to work with clean-out companies, how to build a team of people to work with people in probate. We offer a free weekly probate mastermind call, and this slide is a little bit dated. It says 398. I think, Jim, what are we now at 500?
No, it'll be, we're pretty close, actually. It'll be 404 this week. 404 weeks we've been doing the calls.
That's Jim close to 500, right?
Yeah, right.
We also do regular probate role play calls, which is the what to say, when to say it program. We have a huge, in the tens of thousands, probate Facebook support group. We do the letters for you. We are a commercial printer. We put out literally tens of thousands of pieces of mail for our subscribers every month, and lots of sample letters. We have a team of marketing implementation specialists that work with you to create the letters so that they're personalized for you. We drop the mail when your leads come in. You have the opportunity to scrub them a bit if you choose to go do that. We also offer a program called Property Plus, where we literally will take the probate lead itself and then do a secondary level search to go in and not only try to find if indeed there is property in the probate, because that typically is not covered in the probate filing. They don't cover the assets. So we don't typically get that information to start with, but we can find that information out by digging into, looking into the wills, actually physically examining them. And we then run that same set of data for the decedent against a nationwide MLS database to not only find anything that they owned locally, but anything that they owned all over the United States. So typically, if you're dealing with a personal representative for an estate and that person owns multiple property as is becoming the case frequently, we're in Florida right now, and it's often the case when someone dies in Florida that they owned a property in another state. They moved down here and retired, but they still own the property in New York, or they still own property somewhere else. Same thing in Arizona, California, Texas, any of the high states where people move to from a retirement standpoint. That's very frequently the case. So we try to find all of those for you. We have an ISA group that we work with that can help make the initial prospecting calls on your behalf. So we try to take that off your plate as well. We build a really awesome credibility website that gives you a great place to land all of the traffic that you're going to be doing, from your flyers that we create for you, your mailings that you do, any messages that you leave. You can send them direct to your credibility website. And we have literally hundreds of those out there as well, with great content, and they get a lot of traffic, and it's a super place to go get that done. We also offer programs in social media, email, text, and SEO marketing. Those are things that we're dealing with for you. So to learn more about what's going on and see what we can do to help you, our phone number is 844-532-3369. And make sure that when you call that number, you let them know you came from Todd's podcast. We'll make sure you get the current special offer that's available exclusively for Todd subscribers. And we've created a special link for that, which is alltheleads.com/Schroth.
Yes.
And tell them Todd sent you. And one more thing, as we said earlier, we've recently added divorce marketing to ATL's offerings, and it features many of the same tools we use for probate. And we offer them based on filing, not on decree. And that's a key element to know. And that's because when we started this a long time ago, the two main targets we had were probate and divorce. Divorce is particularly good because in the case of a divorce, there are often two leads in one, whether it's the plaintiff or the respondent, the petitioner or the respondent. They may both have to leave and find a new place to live, but for sure, one of them is going someplace else in the case of a divorce. They may or may not have to sell the house. There may not even be a house to sell, but there are relocations in at least one of their cases. So that one, for sure, there's an opportunity for a relocation. In that circumstance, you can help them on both sides of that equation and take some of the sting out of it, and you become a counselor and a trusted person to work with. Be sure to ask your account rep about divorce availability in your county. It isn't available everywhere. So that's important to kind of keep in mind. So again, it's 844-532-3369, and make sure your rep knows that you came from this podcast, and we'll make sure you get the current special offer that's available for Todd subscribers. And that's alltheleads.com/Schroth. And tell them Todd sent you. And that's pretty much the gist of what we do and how we do it. There's certainly a lot more to it than that. We can talk more about building teams. We can discuss the specifics or anything else, Todd, that you think we ought to get at.
So I've got a handful of, let me remove this from the screen real quick, so we can kind of get back to bigger picture here. All right, so actually, let me leave that on there. I'm going to put that on there because it's got the contact info on it. So a couple questions on this. So you got divorce and probate. Were you guys working on pre-foreclosure as well?
Yes, we do pre-foreclosure. You want to talk a little bit about that real quick? Sure. Yeah. So pre-foreclosure is just what it says. What that instead of starting with a filing for probate, which is where we start on all the probate, we actually start with a notice of death. That can be a local filing in a local newspaper that said that Sally Jones or William Smith passed away, and we begin with that. We begin.
Jim's got a pre-foreclosure, not pre-probate.
Tim, he said pre-foreclosure, not pre-probate. You're talking about pre-probate.
No, we don't. Currently we don't.
That's all right.
Yeah, currently we're not doing pre-foreclosure. I can talk about that as well, however, because we are, excuse me, we're just getting ready to go to the NAR meeting, which starts Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I guess, of this week. And yeah, it is one of the things that we'll be introducing there, not only the current lead types that we have, but basically any lead type. We have, in the last 3 months, we've literally developed the ability to do any lead type anybody's using now. So we can, in fact, do pre-foreclosure.
Okay, it's not part of the routine yet, basically.
It doesn't have a system built around it yet.
Okay.
The key element is that we don't just sell leads. Our whole premise is we try to do this as a system. And we offer it as a system from a training standpoint and a marketing standpoint, and basically do it all for them. So whether we're working in pre-foreclosure, pre-probate, vacant houses, for sale by owner, or any of the things that we do it as a system, not just say, here's a bunch of leads and go do it. Because typically, unfortunately or fortunately for us, we've learned that, and I'm sure that that with the folks that you're dealing with, all too often people buy leads and we just simply say they put them under their pillow and hope they get up in the morning and find money. And so we've tried to build a system to help people get through the challenging process that they have to go deal with. And anything that we do, we try to offer it as a system.
Well, and I like that, because when I'm sitting here doing some marketing, and one of the things that you caught me right in the beginning was a done for you, and keywords being done for you marketing system. How many times have we bought a new program, think we're going to get, I want to call it get rich quick, but get sales quickly from this system because it's proven whatever, and it's basically giving me the box, and now I got to go operate it, and now I need to go hire someone to do it because I'm too busy stuffing envelopes. I got to get someone else to do it, or writing the letters, or whatever it is. So I like the thing done for you marketing system. So can you talk a little bit more about the done for you? You get the probate in, how many letters go out, what's the process of the letters, and that kind of concept.
Sure. So when we started the program, the challenge that we had was exactly that. We didn't know what we didn't know. So we thought, well, if we do a really good job, and our claim to fame when we first began was, let's make sure that we get the best data that we can provide. And so we went out and we began to do a lot of sourcing for not only the skip tracing side, but what are the things that are necessary to make sure a letter is deliverable, that a phone number actually works, and all of the things that are necessary to make that happen. So we built a system that literally today has 32 steps in it from the time we get a lead in our hands from our team. Initially we were buying leads. Now we have a huge team of researchers nationwide that literally are in and out of courthouses and online and getting data and all that. But we get accurate data. We ran into the same problem. We put them out there, and it was a lot of churn. And we're like, why are we not retaining these customers? Why aren't they sticking around? We know it's good data. And so we, logically, we started asking questions. What happened? And in almost every case, when somebody left, it was, well, I didn't really have time to work the leads. Well, we looked at that and said, well, if we're going to stay in business and make this into a viable business, we got to figure out a way to make this easier on them to do that. So the first thing that we started with was, well, we'll do the letters for you. So we became a printer, and we did it in a very small way to begin with. That's now grown into a full-blown commercial print shop. We print everything from 80-foot long banners, 6 feet wide, to letters and flyers and business cards and signage and all the things that are necessary from a marketing standpoint. And as I said, we do tens of thousands of pieces of mail every month. So we did that. We also had the same issue that when you send a letter out or a marketing piece, that traffic needs somewhere to go. Today, people want to look you up online. They want to see who you are. They need to know that, Todd is a good guy, and other people think that. People's social proof is very important. So what we did was we said, well, we will help do this by creating social proof to make that happen. So that's what we did. We went after the social proof, and we created a website that has a ton of content. It has a huge amount of frequently asked questions about probate, basically educating the potential person who's looking to see if they want to work with you about probate, about what you know. And then we began to learn about how to build a team of people with a clean out crew, an estate sale company, painters, viable contractors, attorneys, and a whole myriad of folks that are there to provide support in the probate process. That if they're not being provided by us, the personal representative is going to have to figure out how to go do that. We also established a relationship with another company that allows us to offer a cash advance to any of the heirs of an estate that are in a will, so that if they need access to funding quicker than the closing of that probate, typically for medical needs or anything like that, as long as it is a provable within the will that they're going to inherit, and there's a way to track down that money, our third-party partner, we can in fact furnish that data out, and they can get money very quickly, in as quickly as 48 hours. So we developed that program as well, and we built a system to go do that. So it's all about the system side of it and how that happens. In the world of pre-probate, as I said earlier, we start with the notices of death, and then we begin to dig at the heirs, and we start there, because at that point there's not been a personal representative appointed. So the pre-probate side of it begins a bit earlier in the process. It's a bit less deterministic, but typically the pre-probate product is a great product for investors, and the realtors and investors both are in the probate product.
So how many letters, when you're sending this stuff out, and I mean, obviously you should back up, I think you got into a business you didn't plan on being in when you said you opened a full print shop, and now you're doing banners to signs and everything. But how many letters are you sending the typical, trustee or whatever it is per state?
Depends on budget.
Okay.
And it depends on the approach. It's not all just letters. We recommend postcards as well to mix them in.
Okay.
Anywhere from 3, which is we consider the very least you should do, is 3 letters over 3 months. That was kind of how we started. 3 letters, 3 calls, 3 months. Over a 90-day period, send out 3 letters, make 3 sets of phone calls that happen. What we've learned today, and it's just become a reality, a lot of it having to do with what goes on in politics. People don't answer the phone anymore.
Right.
And the challenge with that is that you've got to find a way to get their attention. So in addition to social media, which we talked a little bit about earlier, you really have to be top of mind at the time they make a decision. And the only way really to do that, other than the social media side, is put something in their hand, something that they're going to hold on to. A full-size postcard, not a 3x5, but a big postcard that has good information on it. It's often very important, with a great big word probate on it that kind of lists your services. So they hold on to that. And at some point, it becomes something that's important to them to call on a third party. That's what you want them referring back to. So kind of to answer your question, we say you need to be looking at marketing pretty hard over the first 6 months. Jim will also tell you, and it's probably a good time for you to chime in, about the seasoning of probate leads, that they really perform later on. They're very valuable even at a year. Jim's got lots of data he can tell you about there.
Yeah, I was just going to add that unlike FSBOs, expires, most other lead sources, if I used to work old FSBOs, but that was like a month old or 2 months old. After a couple months, they're all listed or sold for the most part.
Yeah.
Unlike that, these season extremely well. There are a significant number that have immediate cash needs that need to sell right away. But we developed both a 6-month and a 12-month letter that we every week we come on our mastermind call. People will say, I gave up too soon. I tried you for a month ago, but I just went back and sent letters to my leads that are a year old, and I got 2 or 3 listings. So unlike other lead sources, these will keep producing. Sometimes it just the family is emotionally not ready to deal with it. They've got a squabble among the heirs. Somebody thinks one of the heirs decides, I think I'd like to buy it, and finds out they can't get a mortgage. But for a lot of reasons, these season extremely well. So in addition to the 3 to 6 months worth of letters, I strongly recommend they go back and send at least a 6-month letter and then a 12-month letter. And, you will. The other thing I was going to mention, my claim to fame when I was prospecting, I made 100 contacts a day, but that was back when people used to answer their phone. FSBO's expired, sphere of influence, calling around listings and sales. It's not that way anymore. I mean, they do answer. One good thing with the executors, they're not getting hundreds of phone calls like your typical FSBO or expired.
Right.
So they are going to answer on a much higher rate than a typical lead would. but a lot of them do go into hiding for a period of time. I was also going to say the beauty of this lead source is you don't have to have a high conversion rate to have an incredible ROI. A couple of years ago, we did a survey of our clients, and I always hate to mention this number because it sounds so inflated, but the average for the people that responded was 1,500% ROI. Because I mean, if you get 100 leads and you spend several $100s on the leads and you get one deal a month and you cash a $10, $20, $30,000 commission, you don't need to do a whole lot of deals. But I can't stress strongly enough. Don't look at your short-term conversion. Look at this a year later and see what your long-term conversion, because you're going to get deals way down the road.
So that's a good question though. So if I signed up today to do this, what's the initial step to where I would start seeing a return on it? And I don't want to quit in 30 days, but if normally you've got to see stuff after 90 days, what is the typical plan on when you're starting to go after probates? How long should I be invested in this before I see if it's going to work for me or not?
If I could, Tim, let me just start. Almost every week we have people that to tell us on the calls. I sent out my first batch of letters and I got a listing or two. But we have just many people that say I've been setting them out for 3 or 4 months and I haven't gotten a call back yet. It varies tremendously. It varies depending on your market, how competitive it is. It just varies depending on when you catch those errors in the process. So, Tim, do you have a better answer to that?
Well, no, it's not a better answer, but I think you're asking the key question, Todd, about what's different about this. The issue here is that if you're doing this right, and this is part of what we train people to do, if you're doing it right, every month you're adding an element to what you're doing. And what I mean by that is you are developing an additional relationship with an attorney. You're developing a relationship with an assisted living facility in your local marketplace. You're speaking to groups that you become known as the probate person. You become known as the probate gal or the probate guy in your local marketplace. And then when someone is in that situation, you become the person that someone says, oh, I see you're now the personal representative for your uncle. Have you considered talking with Todd? Understand that he really has a great group of people he's put together to do this. And the longer you do this, if you continue to do this diligently and work this as a pillar, we are a part of that, but you will find that you're building a wave behind you there. It literally becomes a pillar of your business. And every single month you get business that you really didn't do anything specifically for, other than that you planted a lot of seeds and you kept plowing. And that's really what this is all about. And it's unlike any other thing in the marketplace that's like that. It's hard to be known as the FSBO guy or the, absentee landlord lady, but if you are a probate specialist, it's something that makes sense in your local marketplace. And that's what we train you to do, to become known for that in your local market. Same thing with divorce. We're building the same kind of approach where in that case, you're going to be working with counselors. You're going to be working with people like that to develop a relationship where they know that you're not there trying to rip people off. You're not trying to find widows and orphans and putting them in the street so that, you're the horrible predator. You're literally helping people. And if you lead with value and you become known for that in your market, the business is going to follow you.
So if you're where you're saying we're getting in front of the counselors and the assisted living and stuff, how are we getting in front of them through the system? Because isn't this going right towards the heirs and the trustees? Or do we have the information for where they lived and stuff?
Well, in some cases you do. You have, if there's an attorney that's been appointed, we always put that there. So oftentimes when the probate is filed, the things that we guarantee that you'll get is the decedent, the last known address of the decedent, the personal representative, and appropriate contact information, and multiple phone numbers for the personal representative. If there is an attorney of record, we give you that information and any contact information that you can find there. And then through our training, we teach our subscribers literally how to go and present yourself into the counseling environment, into the assisted living environment, how to get the attention of an attorney. And getting the attention of an attorney is really simple. That's an easy tip to give you, which is attorneys have one thing that's important to them. It's billable time. So if you're aware of that and you get, let's say that you get 100 100 leads in your county this month. You sort that list, pull it out into a spreadsheet, sort it by attorney, and you'll find that the same attorney is handling 4, 5, 6, 7 of those. That's somebody that you want to talk to. You want to get with that person. So you find a way to knock on their door, whether that's show up the front door with cookies and try to get past the gatekeeper and schmooze your way into seeing the attorney, or simply call them up and say, I want to buy an hour of your time. That's what they built for. And that could be the best hour that you could ever buy, because you'll learn not only what the vagaries of it are in that marketplace, but you'll get their attention because you're approaching it professionally.
Well, I like your last part, buy an hour of their time. So can I book you from 2 to 3? We have nothing to discuss. That's in any case your regards, but you're $500 an hour. So here's your $500. Now let me just have a conversation with you. But that's like ideal. What can I do to get some of your time? And they don't want to give up their hourly time for that. So that's a key point there.
Yeah, and it's literally, I mean, that's the most professional way to do it. Mm-hmm. And what you're trying to come out of that with is you've got some key questions. Number one, if you're the probate attorney for an estate, do you have people that you recommend for that? And if so, what are your criteria for that? What do you look for from somebody like me? If I'm a person, if I would like to be that person for you, what are you looking for in that kind of person? How can I assure you that I will do that? And it's a great opportunity for you to talk with them about the fact that you're not a predator and how you work with people in that environment and how that works. So those are the things that we teach our folks how to go do.
So do you find it easier to get in front of the guy that's got 6 or 7 of them and he's like the whale, or do you go after the sheep that there's like one or where there's only 1 or 2 being handled, where you have a better opportunity to get to them? Because typically the guy who's got 6 or 7 probates a month is going to have a handful of realtors already breathing down his neck, but the guy who's only got 1 may not have any realtors that are handling his probates.
So the answer is yes. The answer is yes. The issue is that the guy that's got 6 or 7 of them, his time is probably more valuable because he's already got some of them, but he's also probably going to have challenges in some cases with some of the people that are there. If he's got 6 people he's dealing with, chances are pretty good that 1 out of those 6 people probably has done something that he didn't like. And
right. So he's looking for that next referral.
Exactly. So you're trying to find a hole in what he's got now, if you can do that. If not, you've learned a lot anyway. The person who doesn't have very many, you want to start with them, because you go to them and say, so very often, we get involved with estates and all of that because I'm the probate guy in my marketplace. People contact me before they've ever picked an attorney. Would you be willing to take referrals? Put them on the other side of that and say, I want to interview you to see if you're the attorney I want to refer people to. Tell me how you practice. Tell me about your practice. What do you do? And it's a great opportunity for you to say, well, here's what I do. Here's how I can help you.
No, I like that, because it is a referral.
John, I was going to add real quick. In a county with 100 leads, typically 10, 15, maybe 20 of them they're listed. The executor's trying to do it. It's like the FSBO equivalent of a probate. So you could say to the attorney, I'm getting 100 leads a month. 10 or 15 of them don't have an attorney. Would you mind if I referred some of those people to you? He'll sit down and talk to you. Let's make it a quid pro quo. Let's send business back and forth.
No, I like that. So what's the average, like, I want to say rate of return? You mentioned 1,500%, but I'm going to, like, per county, like we're in Orlando, so we got Orange Seminole County. I know one's like a quarter the size of the other, but what's the average leads coming in per month, like per county? And I mean, I know, again, everyone's larger and smaller than others, but what's your like normal you're going to see popping through?
And I'm certainly not dodging your question. I don't have the data sitting in front of me because I'm not online right now, but I can tell you that it's a strange answer. And the reason I say that is, if your podcast is being listened to by someone in California, for example, one of the things that we've found there is that California is a high trust state. So there oftentimes, we would expect that, for example, Silicon Valley, there's, 4.5 million people in Silicon Valley. It's one of the smaller counts that we get in terms of lead availability, because so little goes to probate, because it's been handled via trust and all of that. It's a higher white collar area, and they do that. In other marketplaces, it's not the same. So there's really no real particular rule of thumb other than it has something to do with the economics of the local marketplace and the death rate. Here in Florida, Florida is sadly a very target-rich environment because, people do come down here to retire and they're older. So, we have more deaths per capita in Florida than we're going to have in let's say, Montana, for example.
Right.
So it just literally depends on that. And, every month we get everything that's available. And that's kind of our claim to fame is it literally is all the leads. And we get all of the probate leads that are available in that month, every month, and we furnish them to you on a month-over-month basis.
So this is
another kind of county in California. I was going to say, we've got a county in California that gets 4 leads a month. We've had somebody there for 5 years because it's Beverly Hills. They're getting multi-million-dollar listings, and we've got other areas where we get hundreds. So it really varies considerably.
I'll take 4 leads a month in Beverly Hills prices.
Right.
Exactly. It's
a good opportunity to say one other thing. So in certain marketplaces, that being one of them, Southern California is a market that we initially started out in, and we had all of Los Angeles County in one box. Very, very expensive. And we had subscribers for it, but we also knew we weren't selling very many people there because the cost was prohibitive. So we went in and literally did a zip code by zip code analysis and broke it up into 6 parcels. So we do, kind of the South Bay, East LA, West, and, both of the valleys, and split them up into 6. And so you do get some geographic structure there. We did the same thing with Cook County in Illinois to break Chicago up. We did the same thing with a couple of other counties where it made sense for us to take the time and trouble to go do that. So the larger counties, we begin to break them up. And New York City, we do the boroughs. So we take each individual borough, and each borough is a separate piece, as is Nassau and Suffolk County. So New York has basically seven pieces to what would be considered metropolitan New York. So we try to make it not only possible, but affordable. And we look at how long the drive is. If you take New York as an example, if you're working lower Manhattan, the chances of you wanting to take a listing on the North Fork of Long Island are pretty slim, because you got a 2.5-hour drive, or maybe you can afford a helicopter and fly out there if you want to go to the Hamptons. But we try to be very sensitive to travel and all that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, some of our markets will drive 50 miles for a listing, but it's sometimes we're a little bit because of the space between the land. But then other areas, like, I don't want to drive that 20 miles because it just takes longer to get there. It depends on what it is. And having the helicopter to get the listing appointments to definitely help me win the listing.
Well, if you're a skydiver, it's pretty easy to do,
Yeah.
You mentioned where you live in Orange and Seminole, and of course it's interesting because we're in Cocoa, and I'm very familiar with Orlando, and it is interesting that most people who work the Orlando market, they work more of a metro. They will literally work everywhere from Daytona to Sanford to the airport, all the way around and up to Lake Mary, and in a big circle there. People don't mind driving because we're very fortunate here in Florida. We've got great systems. As long as they can quit tearing I-4 up, you can get around pretty well in Orlando.
Well, that's what I was going to ask too, as a second question, to wrap this part up. If I was looking at diving into this as a system, like, for what I want to dive into Volusia County versus Seminole County, being Volusia, there's more, older folks moving there, and you've got a lot more condos and things like that, where maybe it was second homes, where you're going to see potentially a higher, lead flow.
So the answer in that is yes. Volusia County with Daytona Beach, Ormond Beach, New Smyrna Beach, all of those are high move-in marketplaces. And there's lots of equity there, the same kind of reasons. And you're correct. A lot of condos available there. A lot of people it's becoming a huge target for the Airbnb marketplace. People are trying to do it and Airbnb them, and it's available, but it depends on the market. In New Smyrna Beach, there are only a few of the buildings that you can even do an Airbnb in, where in Daytona Beach, that's not the case. So the law, you have to check out the laws and there's a lot of things you got to know in those markets, but that's the job of a realtor, to know those things. Sanford is another great marketplace for all of that. And rural Florida has, not rural, but people are looking to get out of the cities in Florida. They're looking to buy pieces of land that have property on them, and they can kind of get away from the rat race a bit. And that's becoming big business in Florida.
Yeah, no, for sure, because I mean everything is getting so metropolitanized, and the districts and all that stuff coming. So the next question I have as we wrap up, divorce. How are you getting in front of the divorce people, and is it to the attorneys or is it to the spouses?
Not necessarily. You can get to them through the attorney, but you're typically trying to reach out to both the petitioner and the respondent.
Okay.
And we give you the mailing information for both. If the mailing address still shows as one, then you know that whatever you send is typically going to go to the marital abode, and you can still send it, and maybe one or the other of them will get it. But in that case, you may want to only send one, and then try and get with the attorney if there is one that's shown, and find out how to reach the respondent. And you can typically kind of get that information if they want it known. But the thing that you want to go with that and let them know, in a lot of cases, the biggest issue there that you provide as an agent is financial. So typically a person, and I don't mean this in a sexist way at all, but I'll qualify this by saying in the past, it was a huge challenge for the wife in a lot of cases, because she would be unable in a lot of cases to get a mortgage because of the marital property. Our laws were antiquated a long time ago, and a lot of original mortgages were put down that, she had some rights, but not as many as she has today in terms of doing that. Today, there are a lot of lenders who will, in fact, ignore the fact that there is a mortgage on the books. They will lend on the ability of the person who is who's a wage earner, and put a mortgage on the books for somebody as they are going to go sell the house that they're in. And so they will allow that to happen. And that's part of what we train people to do in the divorce world, is to go seek out those lenders that will do that. And increasingly more and more lenders are doing that. They're offering more liberal credit policies. If you've got good credit and you happen to be going through a divorce, it shouldn't trash your credit as long as you've paid your bills.
Yeah.
So that's important to know. But you reach out directly to that person, and that's why we give you good contact info for Sally and Joe both, to try and reach both of them. One of them's going to move. If you're going to focus on divorce, the other thing that we tell you that you need to be doing is finding rental property, so that you've got the ability to do that reload.
Yep. Because if I get you out of there quicker, we can get you happier quicker, we can get you divorced quicker, and get the house sold. You know.
And you can become a person that can say, look, I know I'm not a mediator, I'm not a trained mediator. However, you guys need to realize that if you're not going to stay together, there's some realities of life. And I have a lot of experience having these conversations. How about we, all find a place we can go sit down together and talk a little bit like adults, and take some of the hatred out of this, and see if we can fix this and find a way to help you both move down the highway a little bit. And oftentimes you become that kind of calm voice that can help. And, you're part counselor, you're part businessman, but you're just providing a safe place.
Now, with all your trainings you guys have going on each week, you help us with those conversations, how to talk to the people, the spouses, or talk to the heirs with the probates. So it doesn't look like, on the probate side, look like an ambulance chaser, and on the divorce, look like we're chasing a dollar. Because you do have to be that mediator between the two.
Every time. I mean, you have to be that person that is a beacon. You got to be a beacon of light. You've got to be a person that, when it's necessary to have someone that you can rely on, who yes, I know Todd is going to be, benefiting from this at some point, and you're not going to try to hide that. Say, look, I'm doing this as a business. Ultimately, if you're going to sell the property, then that's something I want to do. But even if you don't, there are a lot of things I can help you with. And let me just add one other important point. If you put this team together that we talked about, in every case, if you've got a team of 7 or 8 businesses that are focused on doing this, and it can be a clean out crew, an estate sale company, contractors, any of those people, attorneys, all of that, you get referrals out of all of that. So the value to you is, while you might not get a listing out of everyone, and there may not be one in all of them, there's the ability to be building that relationship and building that pillar. And you can get referrals out of it. You can also share marketing costs with the people on that team. So you're marketing for the whole group. You can feature those people on your website. If you chose to do that, you can show who your team is. And we refer to that as a wheel of probate. And we actually have a nice graphic that kind of talks about that we build a page on their website for and talk about who those people are. So there's a lot of value that you bring more than just being a realtor or an investor.
So final question, if I'm going after probates and then divorces, what's a typical budget I should set aside every month for this?
$1 million. And you should send it to me directly, $1 million to me.
What's your Venmo? Let's get the first month paid.
Again, it depends on your marketplace. You asked about some costs and all of that. Your lead costs, you can figure that your leads are going to start anywhere from, $250, $300 a month up from there, depending on the size of your county. We put mail out at anywhere from $1.50 to $1.75. We're actually changing our marketing program. Postage rates are going up, and we're actually going down in our cost. We've kind of developed a program where the first letter that goes out as a high-speed letter because you want to get in front of them as quickly as you can. Subsequent mailings that go out can go out at marketing rate, which is significantly lower, and we pass that savings on. So we're lowering the cost in regard to doing that. But you can kind of figure some rules of thumb there in terms of a multiplier of how many letters you're going to put out over what period of time. And our websites are, I think it's $200 to set it up, which is ridiculously inexpensive. And that includes putting your logo on it, your colors, customizing it, your words, your pictures, everything you want to go do. It's typically $1,000 worth of work. We'll do it for $200. And I think we're charging $39.95 a month to maintain it, keep it online, and keep it fresh and do all that. And it has a built-in attorney attractor. It has a place for people to put their property in there and all kinds of other data for it. So those are kind of the three big elements for that. If you choose to make your calls yourself, whatever your time is worth. If you want to have a third party do that for you, that's a matter of however much that cost is going to be and kind of up to you.
So like a basic budget, if I was going to do something with this, could be around $1,000 a month.
That'd be a good place to start. Yep.
Yeah, because you figure if you're getting 200 leads at $2 a pop, it's $400 plus the web plus the other stuff, and then you start getting into months 2, 3, and 4. You still have subsequent mailings you're doing as well. So kind of keep.
Remember that each month your mailing cost to each group goes down. Okay. You can scrub it out. So if you started with 100, then through the next month you scrub that down. You know that 30 of those or 40 of those are not people you want to work with. So now you're down to 60, then it's 20, and so forth. And at the end of that, when you get down to what Jim was talking about the 6 and 12 month letters, you may only have 10 people out of that group that you're still marketing to. That's an incredibly valuable proposition. You mail out 10 letters and you find 2 of them haven't sold and they'd forgotten about you, and now it's time to do it.
Right. No, makes sense. And you do get smaller and smaller with the groups because you do weed them out further. Well, guys, I appreciate we got a lot of information here. This is great stuff, and we'll definitely see you guys at the show this weekend. We'll be up there at NARA's conference. I love when it's local, so we can actually get there. But I appreciate y'all's time today. Any final thoughts or final words,
Jim?
No, I just appreciate you having us. I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah, we got you. The audio broke up for a minute.
We heard you.
Are you there?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we still heard you.
No, I just appreciate the opportunity to be here. Please come by and see us and take advantage of some of our free training. Show up for our weekly mastermind call Thursdays at 1. We've got a foundations program, which is inexpensive, and we're gonna earn your business. You don't have to start out spending a whole lot of money with us. That's what I would add. And Todd, I appreciate the opportunity.
No, definitely. We'll get on the calls coming up and see. And I'm on the email list, so I definitely see those. I just don't get into them. So we'll definitely dive into it. And I appreciate you guys. And guys, again, have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.
See you soon. Thank you, sir.